So let's be moving on to the technical session third, shared by Dr. Rajesh, Assistant Professor of St. Alfonso College of Arts and Science, Karingal. The presenters are Dr. Rajshri Datta, Farheen Rafa, Jennifer L, and Philip Bobby Singh. Dr. Rajshri Datta, Farheen Rafa, Jennifer L, and Philip Bobby Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are into the third technical session today. As we had listened to a lot of presentations, nearly we have listened to 7 presentations, but to the end of the third technical session, to the starting, now we are running short of time. We have just 30 minutes in our hand. By 2 o'clock, we have to hand over our session towards our resource person of the day. As we are running short of time, I ask all the 4 participants to make it short and sweet. When it comes to your presentation, please make it short. I'm not saying that you have to come up with a nutshell. You sum up or you do your presentation in a nice way, short and sweet. Make it like that. And I hope I wish you all a good session today and a good opportunity given over to you. Make it a wonderful one. Now I call upon Rajshri Dattal, Assistant Professor of Political Science, Department of Social Science, Fakir Mohan University, Balasore, Odisha, who is going to present a paper on cooperative federalism in India, understanding the contemporary discourse. And this, I know that this is a wide topic, ma'am, but I request you to make it short and sweet so that all will be very eager to listen. And this is afternoon time. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So a very good afternoon to all of you. As sir already introduced me, I am Dr. Rajshri Datta, and the title of my paper is Cooperative Federalism in India, Understanding the Contemporary Discourse. So let me share my screen with you. Sir, is the screen visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. To begin with, a federal governance structure refers to the division of power between national and regional governments. The political and economic theories of federalism attempt to understand the rationale for the coming together to form federation, and once they are formed, analyzes the conditions for holding together. So the theory of cooperative federalism grew largely out of a critique of static dual federalism of two-tier model. Now federalism may be executive, cooperative, collaborative or competitive. The Indian model of federalism is cooperative as laid down by the Supreme Court in State of Rajasthan versus Union of India, and also as observed by distinguished jurist MP Jain, these governments are interdependent and not independent. So basically this study is secondary in nature, and the objective of this paper is to analyze India's experience on cooperative federalism, and also the paper would outline the challenges and opportunities of cooperative federalism on the governance system of India. And data needed for this analysis has been collected from different books and journal articles. Now, when we talk about the practical implication of this concept of cooperative federalism, we see that throughout its political history, India has witnessed the manifestations of various forms of federalism. It is crucial to look beyond constitutional provisions to determine whether the goal of cooperative federalism has been realized. and assess whether the actions of the central and state governments reflect the spirit of such federalism. And basically we see that with the advent of the National Democratic Alliance's rule in 2014, numerous steps have been taken to promote cooperative federalism, and few examples like All India Services, which provide another uniting factor in cooperative federalism. The provision is enshrined in Article 312 of the Indian Constitution. An interstate council under Article 263 of the Constitution has been established to discuss and investigate the subject of common interest between the center and the state. Next example is of Niti Aayog. And we see that the main emphasis of Niti Aayog is to bring the effect of state and state relationship, and also to provide strategic technical advice at the center and at the state level. Next, if we look into GST, which is like based on the concept of one tax, one nation, and we see that this provision which came into effect on April 1st, 2017, it provides economic integration, which thereby promotes economic growth and also bind the nation better. Now, if we talk of the recent ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we see that the combination of various laws, regulations, guidelines, and orders, for example, imposing nationwide lockdown, was enforced to control the virus, but we see that it has been the application and implementation of the various measures across the country, like based on the Disaster Management Act of 2005, and several state government has used this act, and they have imposed their lockdown basically towards the second wave of this virus. And another one is the center also reformulated programs like the MGNREGA, and the state implemented this discretion or this decision. So we see that there are different examples of this cooperative federalism with relevance to its practical implications. I have only listed a few. Now coming to the next session, which is what are the hindrances to this concept. First is over-centralization. Over-centralization, as we know that India is quasi-federal with powers and resources being highly tilted in favor of the union. Next is ineffective interstate council. For example, interstate council, they provide for like a platform for consultation between the center and the state. But this has just turned out as a platform of talks with less progress on real issues. Then we see presidential rule. In presidential rule, the constitution has provided the president with the power to take over the state machinery in terms of state, in situation of state failure and emergency. Unfortunately, it has been misused by political parties to subvert state government. Then we see other hindrances like taxation is there, underrepresentation in finance commission, then trust deficit between the center and the state. Then last one is one size fits all approach. This approach has been used for years for not taking into account the heterogeneity of different states and its local requirements. Now, what are the measures to strengthen cooperative federalism? Like I have listed like 4 important measures. First one is empowering states. Now, the states should be empowered more for working to enable smart cities, and there should be further resources allotment, etc. The second point is in relation to the first one, that is optimum utilization of resources, so that the state should be empowered towards like building infrastructure, transportation, more importantly human resources, etc. Next is fostering cooperation. The union must develop new conventions to foster cooperation. And last, taxation. The states must be given more power to tax, and more grants should be given to them. Like one size fits all policy needs to be changed with focus to specific needs of different states. Now, suggestions. Now, the legal framework in the Constitution of India and its exercise by the central and state government indicates that while cooperative federalism has not been realized completely, but it is not a myth either. So, and also one cannot deny that there has been lack of balance of power between the center and the state. So what can be done? For example, the office of the governor should be apolitical, then restriction on the use of president's rule under 356 to prevent excessive misuse of power. Interstate council should be given more power beyond advices and recommendations. And for example, the center should include state into international agreements. And for example, there should be cooperation between the center and the state, especially for the subjects which have been mentioned in the concurrent list. Now, concluding this paper, a diverse and large country like India requires a proper balance between different pillars of federalism, like autonomy of states, national integration, centralization, decentralization, nationalization, regionalization, etc. So extreme political centralization or chaotic political decentralization can both lead to weakening of Indian federalism, and it also hamper in or can also put an impact on cooperative federalism. Reforms at the institutional and political level can deepen the roots of federalism in India. Different types of new challenges and issues that are coming up, say terrorism, or for example internally displaced person, refugee problem, militancy, etc. So it requests that a country as a whole should come together. Cooperative federalism also strengthens the nation from within by enabling it to withstand adversities and challenges, and therefore every attempts or effort should be made towards cooperative federalism, because together we are more stronger. So these are some of the references I have used for writing this paper, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
It was a wonderful presentation, ma'am. Now, this is a wide topic. We know that it's a wide topic, and cooperation is needed. Even this international conference is a cooperative one, where everyone have cooperated each other, and they have done it in a wonderful way. Now, and in that case, our central and state, they have to be cooperative, and this is a wide one, and that has to be discussed in a different way. Anyway, it was a good presentation, ma'am. You have given
Thank you,
wonderful
sir.
suggestions too. Now, I would ask my audience, if you have any questions on it, you can please shoot it down. If you have any questions, please. I hope silence is for agreement. But the silence speaks that you all have agreed with ma'am's paper. Anyway, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Now I would like to call upon the next paper presenter, Farhin Rafat, research scholar from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, India.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Firstly, I would like to thanks to the committee who has given me the opportunity to present my paper. So I would like to share my screen now.
Go ahead, ma'am.
I'm not getting it how to share.
Even you have a problem in sharing, it's not a problem. You can continue with your paper.
So as I'm not able to share my screen, so I would like to talk as usually. So the
You
topic
can go
of
ahead.
my topic is role of teaching styles on learning style. Firstly, we would like to discuss what is learning. Learning is a process through which we acquire knowledge and the changes we occur in our behavior. When we are talking about the school learning, there are a number of factors which are associated with it. Among all, the teaching facilities, the school facilities, the infrastructure, everything plays a great role in achieving in acquiring learning during the school period. In this teaching learning process, teachers and students are the center of any teaching learning process. Teachers play a key role in information exchange process. Whatever information is exchanged, key teacher is the key source through which information is exchanged. Therefore, it is very necessary to understand what are the factors associated with teachers when we are talking about learning or learning accomplishment. Firstly, I would like to discuss what is learning style. Learning styles is the individual method through which he or she assimilates knowledge. Some likes to gain knowledge or some likes to attain knowledge through visual methods. Some prefer to have knowledge when we are by having experience on hands. This term, learning styles, was recognized and given importance by Lauren Bickey in 1970 when he discussed what is the impact of learning style in the teaching learning process. There are a number of learning styles prevailing, or learning styles can be defined in different ways. The reason or the base for these different learning styles uh, can be given from the Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence. As it explains, there are different ways, or a person, individual has different intelligence. One can be special in doing special works, or one is good in reasoning in others. Now, talking of learning styles, different scholars are giving the different methods or different bases of describing the learning styles. Mayers and Briggs in 1976 classified learning styles on the basis of personality, where he classified learning styles into introversion, extroversion, sensing, intuition, feeling, thinking, judging, and perceiving. In the same year, Cole designed a learning style inventory and classified learning into the way of thinking of individuals. He classified learnings into convergent, divergent, assimilative, and accommodative. While there was another eminent researcher, Grasha Rachman, who denied the cognitive aspects of learning. He defined learning as a method of social interactions. Whatever we learn, according to him, whatever we learn is a method, is a process of our social interaction, our emotional methods, and all. In 1996, he presented a model for teaching learning styles in which he classified learning into independent, dependent, competitive, participant, avoidant types. Hence, we can say that learning style of individuals can be determined by the need and situations and available facilities of the individual's characteristic and personality. In education, we not only focus on what is learned, we mainly focus on the learners. The aim of education is to develop the maximum understanding, benefit, and joy from his learning efforts. The student is the center of all learning activities occurring in classroom environment. Among all, his teaching styles can be assumed as the most important one. As all teaching activities are organized and planned by the teacher in order to facilitate learning in the best possible way, therefore, it is necessary to understand, firstly, it is necessary to understand for the teachers to first know their own teaching styles and the individual differences or the different learning styles prevailing in the among the students of their class. What is teaching styles? Teaching styles can be defined as the teaching methods and a set of behavior expressed by a teacher in her class. It is to be clear that there is a difference between teaching style and teaching methods. Teaching methods can be described as the method adopted by teacher. It can be laboratory method, it can be demonstrative method, or etc. While teaching styles defines his personality, what he is actually and how he wants his students to learn. Teaching styles of a teacher emerges from his emotional and philosophical values. The philosophical values what the teacher has and whatever emotional aspects he has a greater impact on the defining the teaching style of the teachers. The best suitable classification of teaching styles was given by the eminent scholar Rasha Greshman. He classified teaching styles into expert, formal authority, personal model, facilitator, and delegator. If I go to the definitions of these terms, expert means the person who has the complete or expert knowledge about the subject topic or course content. And he imparts knowledge and provides the student whatever knowledge he has. Formal authority is just like an instructor who instruct students, define objectives, prepare instructions for the class. Personal model is a person or is a style in which he plays a role model. Whatever that he wants his students to do, first he plays a role model to them and then he asks his students to do it. Facilitator is a person or is act the teacher act in this teacher act as a guide. He provides informations required to accomplish a task. Firstly, a task is given to the student, then he provides the available resources and whatever guidance is needed. Rest the students has to do their work on own. Delegator is the person who only provides resources and guidance. Students in this type of style, the students has to first identify the problems by themselves and search for its solution. Now, why it is necessary to study teaching style while we are discussing about the learning styles? Teachers are the center of all teaching activities occurring in the class. Whatever teaching activities is being planned in a classroom for the students are going to them through teachers. All learning activities are planned and organized according to the intellectual level of the students. Whatever teaching activities we are planning, we are doing, it should be in accordance to the intellectual level or the class level. Personality of teacher also creates a great impact in the student learning process. Therefore, while defining activities, teachers should be very careful. He should know about the intellectual level, emotional level, and the working ability of the student when he is giving the task. For any instructional process, in any instructional process, focus mainly on to shape how we learn or to teach, not only to provide information or just to dump information in the student's mind. It is very important to understand the connections between learning style and teaching in order to accomplish a full successful learning. It is to be considered that learning can be best achieved when the learning style matches with the format of instruction. For example, when we are talking about any visual learner, then the teaching process or the teaching activities should include the concepts or the should be presented in the form of visual so that he can understand properly.
Fahin, can you please sum up your paper?
Yes, just about. Resha Reshman in 1996 in his model has provided a number of clusters. While defining his model, he has provided a cluster of teaching and learning styles that should be the perfect match. For that is the for expert and formal authority, dependent, participant, and competitive will be best. For the learners who are dependent or participants or competitive in nature, for teaching them expert and formal authority methods will be best. Similarly, when the students are collaborative, participant, and independent, facilitator and personal model will work better. And when we are talking about participant, independent, dependent, and collaborative, personal model and formal authority will work. He has actually provided the 40 clusters of teaching and learning styles, in which I have presented only 3. Now, coming to the conclusion, the the learning style, there is, for every learning style, there is a suitable teaching style in which can facilitate learning in the best manner. It is the role of a teacher to recognize his own teaching style and learning style of his students and plan activities according to their need, because learning can be best enhanced when maximum achievement, learning can be best planned according to the needs and the requirements of the students. It is teacher will be able, when teacher is able to recognize his own teaching style, and he also knows about the students needs and the course content, then the teaching will be accomplished in the best manner. For example, when we are talking about the theoretical subjects such as history or literature, the best in that the course content is to be transferred, or the much knowledge is to be transferred given to the student. For this, formal authority type or expert type will work better. Similarly, when we are talking about the science students, then as science course includes much laboratory work and field work, then for that delegator type or facilitator type will work better. So this can be also taken as the implications for my studies. Thank you.
Anyway, it was a wonderful presentation, and we all know that as we all are learners, we are here, have gathered over here in this conference. And in Tamil saying, one of the saying says like this: until you go to the deathbed, you are a learner.
Yes.
And you have, in your conclusion, you have said that all have to adopt their own strategy to learn as well as to teach. That was a wonderful conclusion. Anyway, it was a good one. And now I ask the audience to shoot some questions. This is a learning task, and we all can incorporate into that, and you can discuss. I hope there is no questions. Anyway, it was a wonderful one, Rafin. May God bless you. Now we have the third participant, the paper presenter, Jennifer L., PhD Research Scholar, Department of English, St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science for Women, Hosur, Tamil Nadu. She is going to present a paper on emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and creativity through reading skills. I welcome you.
Thank you, sir. I'm Jennifer, and my paper is based on the reading skills for the beginners on the ideas of Jeff Swiss. He is a researcher at the Stanford University of Education, where he concentrates on cognition, students, higher order thinking skills, and he also, at present, he presents the academic content for language development. And this paper is based on the beginners, especially the children who come from the regional language medium schools. And this place is Hosur, which is on the border of Bangalore and Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, where you have so many children coming from Urdu medium schools, Telugu medium schools, Kannada medium schools, and Tamil. Okay, so though the classroom teaching involves the teaching of 4 primary skills, like you have LSRW, this reading, the habit of English reading, is quite unfamiliar to these beginners, and sometimes they may struggle to achieve this particular skill. They have the struggle to understand the author's intention when it comes to reading. So based on the idea of Jeff Swiss, the strategies of reading are implemented among the students, because the younger generation would be a better individuals only when the reading becomes the essential habit, as it always encourages the divergent thinking of tomorrow's society. So for a sample, Sudha Murthy's Magic Drum and Other Favorite Stories was attempted, where the 6 short stories were taken, and the beginners from regional medium schools were encouraged and motivated to read them first. And as most of the stories were problem solving plots and with the moral, the critical thinking of the readers, it is a long process of reading, but slowly, apart from becoming a constant reader, what we observed is the critical thinking of the readers were encouraged. Okay, so this is what even Zweiss says, that every student has the ability to think outside of the syllabus, outside of the text. So we need to transfer, as teachers, we need to transfer the use of those skills into academic tasks, especially the reading skill can be made. So these readers were motivated, and initially they were guided to check their fluency, coherence, and the corrective reading, and few reading styles like loud reading, paired reading, and individual reading were encouraged. And in the long process of reading, apart from this academic reading, slowly made them the constant readers. First it was like it was a compulsion, and then slowly it became an experimental reading, and their comprehensive skills were built. So and they were constantly monitored, and the speed of perception, the speed of comprehensive ability slowly, gradually developed. And to conclude, I would say that the 3 elements of personality, okay, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and creativity, when they start reading, when they were beginners, maybe in the first year, they had no idea of how their future would be. But slowly, when they were in the final year, they become good readers. They slowly start writing poems, and this process of reading is totally instead of compulsion, it became a fun filled activity, and they became good readers. They set goals for their reading, and thus they created a purpose of for reading, and they were also trained. The teachers facilitated them, so they grew emotionally balanced, where they had a goal for their life, to continue their higher education. Most of the students' parents were of a rural background, where they have no idea. They don't even have idea of why they study. So at the end of the 3rd year, they definitely, their personality is groomed. And I would like to conclude my presentation quoting Tirukural, okay, where you have Tiruvalluvar saying, Tottanai Thurum Manarkeni, Mandartham Katranai Thurum Arivu. It says that the translation goes like this: as deep you dig the sand, the spring flows. In the same way, as deep you learn, as deep as a teacher, as deep you encourage the students to inculcate the reading skill, the knowledge grows. Thank you.
Wonderful, ma'am. It was a wonderful presentation. Ma'am, is it a case study or it's a paper?
So it is a paper, sir, but it was not a case study happened recently. So that's why I didn't mention it as an action research.
Okay, no, you
It
were
is just
telling
an
that.
observation and
Yeah.
analysis.
You were telling that in first year the students were like on one manner, and then 3rd year they have developed themselves. That's what I asked you, whether is it a case study or not.
No, sir,
Okay.
it is not a case study. It is an overall observation as a teacher.
Yeah, okay, fine, ma'am. And if the knife is not used, the sharp, it never gets sharpened, right? You have to use it, then only it will be sharp. Otherwise, it will get rust and can't be used. The same way, if you use a brain daily, surely you'll get into emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and creativity. That is a wonderful presentation. Even the reading is a must. And I request the audience to come up with some questions. Okay, anyway, no, there is no question. Ma'am, can I shoot a question to you?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea of suggesting what sort of any sort of books or any sort of activity to the students to improve their reading skills? Because reading skill is to be improved. You know, everyone when we go get into a college or school, we start reading. We start reading our text, but we must have, they must be an voracious reader. Until or unless they are an voracious reader, they can't improve. their skills. They can't improve their emotional intelligence or critical thinking or creativity. Do you have any idea such?
Yes, sir. So personally, I feel that encouraging students to start with a novel would not be a best idea. To my experience, I always give these kind of books like Enid Blyton to they start with the short stories, and few people are interested in poetry. Okay, so they start with that. Say slowly, if it is a short story, 4 to 5 pages, and it is also easy on the part of a teacher to explain them clearly, and especially the coherence skills are developed when it comes to the short story rather than a novel. And after reading, as a group or as a pair, they were asked to connect the story maybe to the present day, or if it is a fantasy, they are asked to give it a different ending. And sometimes the story is stopped half, and they were asked to predict the story. So that is how you can interact with the students to make their reading skills higher.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, fine. Like when we start our listening skill, we used to say like this: we start with Pogo channel or Cartoon channel, so they get interested and they start to listen. It's basic. Like this, you're saying that just to go with short stories.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, it's a wonderful idea. Anyway, very good, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
sir.
now
Thank
we
you.
have the fourth presenter, Philam Bobby Singh, research scholar from Manipur University. She's here to present a paper on Manipur and the Indian National Army. Ma'am, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, it's sir, are you there?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, sir,
Oh,
it's yours. And sir, make it
okay.
short and sweet. Our speakers are already in.
Okay.
Sure,
First of
okay, sir,
all,
go
I would
ahead, sir.
like to thank the organizer committee for organizing such an international virtual conference and giving us an opportunity to present our paper. So, without wasting your time, I'd like to start my presentation on the topic Manipur and Indian National Army. As we all know that there are many contributors and contributions in India's freedom struggle from different parts of the country. Nowadays, historians have started considering that India's freedom struggle was conducted on two fronts. One was within the country, which tried to generate nationalist sentiment among the people by peaceful means under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, and the other was through the effort of Indian revolutionaries who wanted to weaken the British hold over India by violent means and with the help of some foreign powers. Subhash Chandra Bose chose violent methods and sought collaboration with Axis power, more specifically the Japanese power. INA was founded initially by Captain Mohan Singh, an officer of the Consigned Service. He was earlier in the British Indian Army and surrendered to the Japanese after British lost the war in Singapore. After Bose's arrival, INA, was got a new status. It got revived and strengthened. It was Bose's charismatic leadership that many sections of the population, including even women, joined INA. Japan agreed to have Indian soldiers in their freedom struggle if they pledged their loyalty to Mother India. An important attraction to the INA for Indian Army officers was the opportunity to act in Indian interests, or at least to attempt to protect those interests. During initial months, Subhash Chandra Bose's arrival in Southeast Asia, Singapore was INA headquarters. However, it was moved to Rangoon to fight for British in Imphal and Kohima, and Nagaland also. After moving to Rangoon, Bose himself spent much of his time raising resources and recruiting civilians volunteer to his cause. The Imphal campaign was considered as one of the most crucial events as the INA could strike against British India with a full military might that too for the first time. The two tiny frontiers of Indian state bordering Burma, that is Manipur and Nagaland, were almost liberated in this campaign. For the Imphal attack, three units were formed: Bahadur units, intelligence unit, and reinforced units. And these crews were sent to join the Japanese division for training in December 1943. Their main aim is to overthrow British Empire from Indian soil and furl the Indian flag over the Red Fort in Delhi. The Imphal offensive initiated on 8 March 1944, and by the 18th March, the INA moved into northeastern India towards Imphal and Kohima. Initially, Annie was advancing in the war, and General Mutaguchi, who is the leader of Japanese army, cut off the line for the British and held them up in Manipur and did not let them escape. However, Subhash Chandra Bose wanted to drive out the British and reach Dimapur. If they reached Dimapur, he could get support from the people in Bengal, and there would be revolution everywhere against the British, where it cannot be stopped. The lack of communication and miscalculation later on cost them enormously. The siege of Imphal lasted for 3.5 months, and by then Iron troops had started feeling the shortage of essential supplies, whereas the British were supported by continuous airlift of supplies organized by Americans. The Iron was at a distinct disadvantage. Unfortunately, an early monsoon towards the end of June brought havoc with the terrain, and the supply situation worsened as the Iron troops decided to wait and watch. On 10 July 1944, Japan informed Bose of the unsuitable situation and asked him to withdraw the Iron troops from Imphal. With their food and medicine supply lines cut off, this was one of the worst periods of INA. Meanwhile, Bahadur Group of the INA commanded by Shaukat Ali Malik had fought extraordinarily well in Bishampur sector. Malik fulfilled the confidence of his leader, who had shown in him by hoisting the Indian tricolor flag in Moira, a little away from Imphal in 14 April 1944. The promised march to Delhi was, however, halted in Imphal. By July 3rd week, the INA and the Japanese army had to retreat. Furthermore, the British subsequently reconquered Burma again. And coming to the next point, which is Manipur during the Second World War. Imphal, the capital of Manipur state, is a valley surrounded by hills, and it was the main British base in the area. Before the Second World War, Manipur was not known much outside, but with the war, it suddenly became the most important state and was at the front of the war when the INA and the Japanese invaded the British in the state. Manipur was one of the most affected areas in India by the Second World War and the Imphal campaign. The parrot in Manipur is locally known as Japan War or Japan Land. The crucial Battle of Manipur or Imphal was played out by the great general of Great Britain and Japan, and both sides knew the importance of this battle, as whoever holds Imphal holds the weapon to turn towards India or Burma. The British political agent Christopher Gimson was not expecting any sudden Japanese invasion of Manipur. However, higher authority instructed to make the people aware of Japanese army by sounding regular anti-air raids sirens. On 10 May 1942, Japan bombarded Imphal for the first time in the history of Manipur. In 1944, Imphal again became the target of intermittent bombing by the Japanese. The Manipuris, having no effective means to defend themselves from the air attack, began to shift to distant villages in large number. Moreover, the flow of refugees from Burma and aerial bombardment caused considerable upheaval in the state. Imphal became a substantial forward supply base in the months that followed, and Manipur infrastructure was developed like never before. Motorable roads were made for better transport, especially for the war. Airstrips were built, and thousands of troops from India and worldwide, including the Americans, came in. Business boomed up in Imphal with the arrival of soldiers requiring all sorts of goods and supplies. The people of Manipur, especially the displaced people, were significantly affected as there was inflation, price of goods were skyrocketed during the wartime. However, due to a large amount of spending, there grew trade and commerce in the state. This saw the socio-economic change in the state and can see some changes and development in the state. As John Parrott wrote in Wounded Lane, by the time the war ended, Manipur had been forcibly dragged into modern era. And the next topic that I'm starting is the response of the people of Manipur in the war, how people responded in the war. The Iron movement in Manipur was interwoven with the Japanese campaign in 1944. The people of Manipur during the war had mixed reaction, as some section of people, including the king of Manipur, extended warm support to the British, and some limited section of the people supported INA and the Japanese army. The king of Manipur assured full cooperation and extended help in case and material to the British. Although some of his subjects sided with the British, many of them did not support the British but rather supported the INA and the Japanese. The British were quite impressed by the help extended by the king and boosted the morale of the allied forces. His Arambot, a well-known social activist who was exiled for raising against the king, was against the Japanese. He even announced his burning desire to go back to Manipur and help his people fight against the Japanese army, promising to
Excuse
raise
me, sir.
even 20,000 volunteers. Sorry?
Excuse me. Sir, can you
Yeah.
sum up your paper, sir?
Yeah. So here I'd like to mention one important person, with coming to the conclusion, there was a man called Koide who took a prominent role in the war effort. The 33rd Japanese Division of Bahadur Group of INA led by Colonel Shaukat Ali Malik could fight against the British for 3 consecutive months with the support voluntarily donated under the leaders of this leader Moirang Koiring Singh. And even he, for his contribution to the INA, he was given Tamrapatra in the year 1972, which is being awarded to the freedom fighter of Azad Hind Fauj. And Koirin and his few prominent friends in Moirang eyewitnesses the historic tricolor flag hoisted by Shaukat Ali Malik, commander of Bahadur Group, to mark the unique liberation of Moyang from the clutches of the British colonial rule on 14 April 1944. This day is still remembered as a red letter day in Indian history. So coming to the conclusion, I'd like to conclude by saying this, that the war fought by INA and the Japanese against the British was one most crucial war ever fought in the history of India's freedom struggle, that too during the Second World War. If the INA could succeed, the history of India could have changed. The role of Manipurists need to mention as the INA could conquer the Impal Valley initially because of the people of Manipur's help. Although the miscalculation had caused the war for the INA, their spirit was not lost. The role of Koiring was important here too, and due to his effort, INA Memorial Complex was built in Moirang, which is now one of the most important tourist spots for this INA. Thank you. I think I have done my presentation.
Okay, that was a
I think
wonderful
so.
one, and we have listened to a wonderful thing of INA and Manipur. This is not known to many of us. Anyway, it was a good presentation, sir. Back to the audience, if you have any questions or if you have any doubts on this, you can raise yours. And thank you for all the participants. I hope you have researched a lot and you have come up with good papers on different topics. I congratulate you, and also I wish all the endeavors to come in future.